Hi, thanks for joining us for our first virtual conversation about grief in the holidays. My name is Sarah Felter and I'm a counselor with Pathways.
And I'm Janet Severance, one of the grief counselors here at Pathways.
This is a program that we share with our clients and the community in general about how to manage the holiday season. And this year, because of the pandemic, we wanted to create a version of this talk that would be accessible and reduce risk of any exposure. So while we're talking today, we're going to mention some handouts that you can reference, and they should be located below this video. If they're not, we'll have kind of a description of the video kind of telling you where to find them. And if you are free to share this video with anyone that you'd like, if you think there's someone it'd be helpful for, friends, family, coworkers, and feel free to reach out to us as well. Our main number at Pathways is 970-633-3500.
Great. Well, to begin, we wanted to expand our concept of the holidays. We realize this is a time of the year where there are many special occasions. The day of our recording, we've already come through Halloween, but essentially we're talking about Thanksgiving, the Christmas holidays, and also there may be special occasions within your own family, including birthdays and anniversaries. This could be your own or of the loved one that you're remembering. So we know this time of year can be full of many different types of celebrations and traditions. We'll be talking a bit about traditions today as we present with you. So again, with grieving a loss, this is often a time of year where there can be a lot of expectations about being joyful and happy, and this is a wonderful time. And this may not at all be what it is for you. This may be a time that is a very difficult time to cope with. Your grief is sometimes more elevated during this time of the year. And so we realize this is a challenging time for you and your families.
Yeah, and we want to recognize that it takes courage to look into a video like this. It's definitely not a presentation that anyone looks forward to seeing or wants to need. So thank you for joining us. And the holiday season, like we kind of discussed, can be very challenging, especially if it's the first holiday season after a loss. This is the first time you're encountering some of these traditions and holidays, and so it's normal to have some increased feelings of grief. And we just wanted to acknowledge too that with the changes in our society related to the pandemic, that a lot of people's traditions and experiences this year are going to look a lot different, just to kind of normalize that experience, and that there may be more isolation than in years past.
So some of our goals for today, we want to leave you with ideas that can help you cope with the holiday season. Also, this sense that you're not alone. There are many people surrounding you and in our community that are experiencing difficult times and grieving. We want you to take this time to reflect upon your own needs. We will be sharing some of that with you as well. This is an important time to be considering what you feel you can and cannot do, and ways that you can take care of yourself. We also want to perhaps present ideas of ways that you can remember your loved ones during this time. That can also be challenging in terms of, do we do that, do we not? And so we do have some ideas to share with you about ways to honor and remember your loved ones. So again, we're here with information. We hope this will be a supportive experience for you, and also time that you are taking for yourself to consider the upcoming season and how you can best manage that and approach that.
So to start, we'll take a few moments for that self-reflection time. We're going to ask a few questions. It may be helpful to have some pen and paper with you, and it might be helpful as well to pause in between questions to give yourself time to reflect or write down an answer. So our first question is, what might you be most apprehensive about, and what are some of the expectations around the holidays? And some sub-questions around that might be, What is the most concerning or stressful about the upcoming holidays or special events? And what may others be expecting of you? Also, something to consider, what is the most difficult or causes the most fear for you around the holiday season? It might be feeling isolated or feeling alone, or it could be just being around more people than you've been used to for the past several months. It could be a fear of losing control emotionally, whether that be anger or sadness, feeling overwhelmed. It will be helpful to ask yourself, what realistically can I handle? Something important to consider here would be your recent energy levels. It's normal for many people to experience a decrease in energy with kind of those waves of grief that come around. So if you're noticing that, keep that in mind and thinking about how it might shift your abilities and expectations for yourself. And asking yourself these questions isn't intended to bring any anxiety, but naming your concerns is going to help you plan and prioritize for this coming season.
So thinking of priorities, and based on the things that Sarah has mentioned, taking that time to reflect on what really is most important this year. One thing we know is that this could be like an experiment this year, whether it's your first holiday season or perhaps beyond that. Nothing that you do this time around is anything you have to make a commitment to. So that idea of trying things and looking at it from an experimental point of view, not making a lot of expectations upon yourself and others, may help you to prioritize what really is most important. In looking back at this holiday, what would you like to be able to say about it? That may be another way to consider that for yourself. So there may be tasks that you have generally done that perhaps you do not feel you are, that you have the capacity to do that. Are there ways that you might delegate some of those tasks, or speak with your family and friends about your priorities and what really is most important, and then asking others to help or delegating certain tasks or activities. The idea of being flexible with yourself and others is certainly important, especially thinking if you are together with family and others who are grieving the same loss. We know this can be a difficult time, and so being as flexible as possible with one another. Important to focus on this present time. Expectations often are about the past and may not be really appropriate for you now. So as best as possible, trying to put your attention more toward the holiday season that is now versus how it used to be or how you might be wondering how it will be in the future. Don't be afraid to make changes. You all have been through tremendous change. And so, again, it's okay to make changes in what you've done before at this time of the year. Sometimes people are very connected to traditions and want things to be the same. Sometimes families have chosen to do a bit of each to still honor some of those traditions, but to also perhaps bring in something new that may be more representative of your current situation. If you decide to skip things altogether, that's okay too. Again, these are not permanent things that you are doing right now. As we've mentioned, it's more of trying things out and see how it goes for you and for your families. We do know that often young children like the idea of keeping traditions. And so again, if you have individuals in your circle that are very committed to keeping tradition, maybe this is something that they could take the lead on, that you could delegate to them, especially if you're feeling like the traditions are too challenging and too hard there may be others in your family or circle of friends that would be very happy to do that for you. And as Sarah has said, not only is your situation impacted by the loss of your loved ones, but our situation with the pandemic it will also impact this time. And so again, we're just needing to be as flexible as possible during this 2020 holiday season experience.
One thing that can be really helpful during this time would be to find ways to express what you're feeling and what you're noticing with your grief experience. Holidays and celebration magnify feelings of loss. It's natural to feel that more sadness, more irritability. And something important to acknowledge too is that the changes to traditions, is another type of loss. We lose the person, but we also have these secondary losses of what we expect moving forward in our future. And it's important to talk about that. If you have people that you can safely connect with in person or online that are really good listeners, friends or family who understand loss and are willing to listen without fixing, that can be a good option for being able to express your feelings. Connecting with a counselor, a peer mentor in grief, or attending support groups can be another opportunity to have options for expressing oneself. And additionally, creative outlets can be very helpful at this time. So that could be journaling, it could be art making, painting, poem writing, letter writing, and music as well are all great ways to creatively express yourself. An important part of, now that we've kind of talked about self-assessment, prioritizing, talking about your feelings, is communication. Now that you've had some time to reflect, how do you let people know what it is that you need? So first, taking that time, figuring it out for yourself. What are the things I'd like to delegate? What are the things that are important to me this year? And share that with friends and family. There may be compromises that occur, like we talked about earlier. So maybe some kiddos really want a specific type of food or a specific decoration that's overwhelming for you. So there might be some back and forth about what different family members' needs are to compromise. It's also important to feel that it's okay to assert boundaries around what your needs are as well. Delegating, like we spoke about before, and another important part of communication can be, first of all, giving yourself permission to have an out or to back out of gatherings with others that you kind of plan ahead for. If you're not sure, will this be overwhelming? Will this be what I need? You can communicate to people, hey, I'm going to drive separately to this event, and I might need to leave in the middle, and if I do, I want you to know that I'm okay. You can call me later. I've talked with some people about, let's say they walk out of the room during a family moment for a holiday tradition, advocating for yourself. Do you want somebody to come follow you and check in on you? Or do you want that time to just be alone and have a moment and rejoin when you feel ready? So you can assert those needs and communicate that with your family, so there's not some confusion about if you do need to take a step back, why you're doing that and what you'd like from them.
So we're really talking now about self-care, kind of moving into this idea of how you care for yourself, how you nourish yourself, and making those needs known to the best of your ability. Along with the video, there will be a handout about self-care and grief that should be accessible to you, but I do want to share a few ideas with you as well. So by no means, as we talk about self-care, do we look upon this as a selfish act. Sometimes people will somewhat hear it that way, But essentially what self-care truly is really taking that time to consider what your own needs are, what feels right, what doesn't, and to be able to express those needs. So this is not about being selfish. This is really about honoring you and this time in your life and what you might be needing for yourself. It's important to listen to your body. We know that during this time of the year, sometimes we are overextending ourselves. We are not eating right. We just may not be taking as good a care of ourselves. And so again, as we mentioned, with grief anyway, you may be experiencing more fatigue, less energy, less motivation. These are all things that could be happening. And so again, paying attention to where you are in your body and in your kind of your physical health and how that is for you. As much as possible, being able to engage in activities that are helpful for you, taking a walk around the block, if the sun is shining one day, being able to get outside, get some vitamin D, feel that warm sun on your skin, listening to music or engaging in art making, journaling, the creative expression that Sarah has talked about can be really great ways to take care of yourself. Maybe you treat yourself to a massage, or you're taking more baths, or maybe there's a special movie you want to see. If you feel comfortable, maybe gathering with a friend, having lunch, the things that would bring you joy and kind of help to fill your cup. We really encourage you to take that time for yourself. This can also be a time in people's lives where your spiritual beliefs, faith traditions can be an important part of how you engage and also find meaning. And so being able to sort of renew yourself with meaningful activities, whether that be, you may not be meeting with a big group of people, but there may be things that you do, rituals or again traditions or readings that are meaningful to you, and doing that in the sense of renewing yourself and again self-care for the spiritual side of your life. So again, no pressure, no shoulds, going at your own pace, and your grief has no timeline. So this holiday season does have a timeline. So in terms of really honoring where you are at this time, this is so important to be able to know what feels right and what does not. You may also want to think about, in terms of honoring your loved one, this may be a time that you would want to extend a gift that was from your loved one. In other words, you could perhaps make a donation to a favorite charity of your loved one. We've spoken with families where they've actually handed down a tradition in the family, where dad always was the one who carved the turkey, and now it's going to be this other person in the family. So kind of passing down a tradition perhaps, or maybe there are things that have belonged to your loved one that you would like to gift to a person in your family. These can all be ideas of ways to reach out to others, to include others, but also to give to others. One thing people have often said, that even in the midst of grief, that sometimes being able to do something to help another person has a great impact on you. It helps you feel better. It gets you kind of out of your own situation for a period of time, and you may feel good about being able to do something to help another person. So these are all various ideas of ways to be good to yourself, and again, we encourage you to look at the handouts that we have available for you on our website.
Another important thing we'd like to touch on is this idea of traditions, things that are changing, and what some practical suggestions for those things might be. So holidays are typically about a lot of ritual and tradition, which can be tricky right now, because with grief, as we've talked about, you may want not to do anything at all because everything feels so different. or you may be holding on very fiercely to the things that had happened before. Often it can be helpful to, in grief in general, not just in the holidays, but to create space to honor and remember loved ones, and something that we often refer to as grief rituals. And there's a lot of different ways that this can look. It often is very different per individual, per family. Some of the suggestions that we've learned just by talking with people who are experiencing grief in families is to light a candle, a special candle that maybe you decorate or has significant meaning in color or smell, to quietly include your loved one. So that might be a time that you and or your family quietly reflect on memories. It could be a candle placed at somebody's normal seat at a table. And since many of us might be a little spread out this year, more than we normally would be, a variation of this ritual would be to connect with family members who might be in different cities, different states, and all plan to light the candle at the same time, so that even though you're not physically together, you're able to engage in this ritual as a group. Additionally, it can be meaningful to talk about your loved one, sharing memories, things like that. It's important to, again, to that communication piece, if that's something that you feel would be important to name and acknowledge them in the regular conversation, to name that. And some people may feel the opposite. They may find that overwhelming, and that's okay to name too. One way to share and reflect on memories that might not be so public or kind of in a group setting would be to create some kind of mailbox or basket for family members to place notes to the loved ones, write about memories, write letters, so that that process can be observed without it being anybody being put on the spot, for example. Like I mentioned earlier, it might be helpful to save your loved one a place at the dinner table. Maybe placing something special there, a meaningful item that belonged to them, a candle, a sweater over the chair, setting a place at the table with the silverware, whatever feels appropriate for your family. Sometimes in that setting, going around the table to share a memory, depending on your family's needs, can be a good opportunity to have some structured memory sharing. Like Janet mentioned earlier, buying yourself or your loved one a gift to kind of represent that person, that they're participating in this holiday season, if gift giving is a part of your holiday or special celebration. And like I mentioned before, bringing out meaningful belongings. That could also be clothing, that maybe it was somebody's favorite holiday sweater or a meaningful team ball cap that can be a part of the celebration. And sometimes people like to make a seasonal centerpiece or hanging decoration that's specifically memorializing or symbolizing that person. So that could be a centerpiece, it could be a wreath, it could be even a fresh flower arrangement, if that seems appropriate. If you'd like to have your loved one's presence recognized in that holiday celebration, let them know, because sometimes by letting somebody know what your needs are, you're giving permission for other people to name their needs too, and to be able to talk about that. So kind of going back to the point of self-care and communication, prioritizing not being selfish, that by taking this time and making those things known to other people, you're giving other people permission to do the same. Memory rituals like these, they can be done together, they can be done privately, they can be done over video calls, on the phone. They can also be done at a special place. So perhaps there was a place that was meaningful to the person or to you and your family. And for some people that could be like a memorial tree that's been planted. It could be where remains or cremains are. or a meaningful place in nature. For more examples on rituals, we have a handout below called 10 Ways to Remember, which gives more kind of different general examples. And there's also a handout called Candle Lighting Ritual, which is something that can include multiple people. There's a script, things that people can read, there's instructions. So if you'd like something a little bit more structured to try with your family, I would suggest looking at that one.
So we do want to let you know about a couple of events that are coming up. We've mentioned about a memorial wreath, and an activity and a style that we have used here in Pathways at the past has been an event to create a memorial wreath. And we are going ahead and doing that this year. It will look a little bit different, but the date is Saturday, December 5th. And it will be by appointment during the day, and it is a time that you could come as an individual, you could come as a family, bring a friend, whatever that might be. And if you are interested in participating in the wreath making, we would request that you call our main number and make an appointment to be able to come by that day. These have been really wonderful events. We have many, many supplies, and the wreaths are here for you. We have pretty much everything you'd need. However, if there were special items that you wanted to bring yourself or include in your wreath, we welcome you to bring anything that you would wish to incorporate. There is a fee of $15 per wreath. So just to keep that in mind, but we would love to have you participate in that event if you would be interested in that. Also, in the winter months, we will host a winter memorial service. We do this twice a year, once in the summer and once in the winter. And this is really a community event for anyone in our surrounding area who has experienced a death loss. That event will be in February. We don't have the exact date determined right now, but this is certainly something that you could keep track of on our website, or if you are engaged in our services, we'll be certainly letting you know about that. And as we've said, following this presentation, if you have any questions, thoughts, if you're feeling like you do need some additional support during this time of the year, we encourage you to give us a call at Pathways. Our phone number again is 970-663-3500. That information is available on the website as well, but we would be happy to do our best to be of some additional support. So we wish to thank you for joining us today, hoping that this information, at least you have something that you're taking away from this time to help you begin to create a plan, or maybe some of our ideas will help you already finalize a plan that maybe you're already working towards. So we wish you well, and to take good care of yourselves, and wish you the best holiday season. Thank you.